Full disclosure, news and commentary number 32. Happy motherfucking anniversary to the greatest angle in Georgia wrestling history. When your fans make a shirt with the noose to commemorate when Shane Marks betrayed PCW and the Empire took over, that's some good shit. This is a bad fucking printing of the shirt. That's the one they gave me for free, though. I ain't going to bitch. Team all you can eat. Represent. We're going to talk about fucking 11-11-11 for sure, but I definitely wanted to get to... I'll be honest. I was going to do full disclosure tomorrow, but I realized, holy crap, it's 11-11-11. We got to talk about that shit. And I got something to unbox, and I was excited, and I wanted to fucking see what it was. But I am writing a review of the MLW show. It's just, I can't hold anything back when I write, and the shit's already fucking 4 pages long, and I'm on like match 4. But I'll get it done tomorrow. I'll put that out, something written to read, and then I'll probably do a director's cut so I can tell all the little stories and all the things around it. The commentary centers around MLW, actually, because, of course, I was there to see Logan Creed, but little did I know that other Georgia notables would be there, including one that is a bit of a redemption story and kind of awesome. And then Priscilla Kelly was there as well, who was at the last show that I saw in Florida, who I drove back to the hotel room, blah, blah, blah. I might tell that story, I might not. Special thanks. This is how, by the way, what am I watching? Mr. Right with Anna Kendrick. Heart. I'm a T-Rex! I'm invincible! God bless her. Patreon people. Remember when this was one person long? When it was Myron? Who's still... Really? Really, computer? You're going to put up this shit about fucking antivirus protection and shit? Get the fuck out of my way. This is full disclosure, fool. Malone, Eric, Robert, sort of. Robert. Diana... Hold My Beer Hansen. These are all fucking new people. It's fucking awesome. Georgia Indie Report. The fuck? Logan, Josh, Southern Honor, Double Dropkick, Myron. Fucking, of course, you know, Larry, not that one. Just all of you. Fucking rule the world. Let's get to this unboxing. Excited. Sorry, I gotta have shit on the ready. You know how we do. Trying not to be rude. If there's a note, I want to look at that first. I'm not sure. I'm not sure this company either. There's no note. Fuck me. Wow. Wow, it's just a straight up nice ass fucking shirt. God damn. A few eagle-eyed people noted on the, but wait, there's more. This fucking thing is cool. I'm gonna put it on. Fuck, sorry. A couple eagle-eyed people noted that I was holding in the thumbnail of the, but wait, there's more, which got a huge fucking reaction. Everybody liked the KKK joke. Fucking sick bastards. That is my audience. I love you. People noted that it was a samurai sword. Was it a real sword? Yes. It's a sword I used practice when I would train and train others. So it's got a little bit of an edge on it, but not that much of it from years of chopping things. And I practiced throwing it because Lone Wolf and Cub, he would throw his samurai sword And I was like, is that even possible? So I wanted to see if it was, so I would practice with that. So the tip is kind of blunted, but it's a fucking real samurai sword for those that asked. Dope shirt. Transcendent shirt underneath. Former gift. And now the samurai sword on the top. Yeah, buddy. Yes, yes. Woo. It is Veterans Day as well. Shout out to my pops. Fucking badass motherfucker. Badass motherfucker. All right. Let's jump into it. All Pro 150. Rob Rod gave a match an F, but then he didn't want to go into details on the report. What the fuck, Rob Rod? One, congratulations on giving an F to a match that clearly deserved it, where apparently you went back and gave it an F after giving it a D- because you didn't want to. I get Rob Rod's instinct. I have that instinct too, believe it or not, where you don't want to completely frustrate somebody or downgrade them. But then I fight it and do it anyway. But Rob Rod, perhaps a better human being than me in some way. Bushido drew 70, featuring Superhuman and an N versus Matt Sells. Matt Sells continuing to rack it up and do it up big. Gets the match with Superhuman and an N, who picks up the win on Matt Sells. Something I thought was notable, though, was they wrestled in front of 70. Is that going to be the smallest crowd that Superhuman and then wrestles in front of? I venture to guess it is. And Bushido's problems with attendance continue because having to pay that motherfucker to come in, did they even fucking make the money back to pay him? These are the questions that I ask. APW 58, Jacob Ashworth wrestles and jobs yet again. APW, though, that's the smallest crowd they've had in a while. Now, it's sort of post-big show for them. So those problems continue for all Georgia promotions. The show that you do after your big show, of course, you're going to have a drop in a crowd, but everybody's having very dramatic drops after big shows. Anarchy with 125. Good for them. WrestleMerica, the report from Larry, 175 in a 3.5 hour fucking show. 3.5 fucking hour show. Okay, yeah, MLW went longer than that, but they were doing multiple television tapings, for fuck's sake. WrestleMerica, shit, you're killing me. Tyson Dean turning heel. We'll see what develops on that. Pro South with 36. Fuck Pro South. I feel you. We used to get that PCW at the Avondale shows often. Pro Wrestling Circuit, haven't heard anything. Maybe I'll have to do a follow-up video about it. Beyond what their crowd was, which was about 175. So they did their thing. I didn't hear anything else about the show. Except I'm guessing Mr. Hughes used a chain in his match. That talentless fuck. All right. Weird news stories. Lately I've noticed I'm a big Groupon guy. Big Groupon guy. And if I've ever looked up anything, then their algorithm makes it so that it shows you all kinds of offers. And to me, I've opened it up so it shows me all the offers in the country. Why would I do this? One, because I'm set to travel. Once I get my next promotion at work, I'm probably going to be traveling all over the country. But more than that, I was interested in the wrestling shows that put themselves on Groupon. And here's a sort of a little anecdotal research. WWE puts every one of their fucking shows on Groupon. I'm talking pay-per-views, Raws, SmackDowns. And they're selling the tickets incredibly cheap through the Groupon. That's troubling. AEW is putting a lot of shows on fucking Groupon as well. And I mean, they're giving away tickets for less than 50%, more than 50% off. Both of those groups. There's also these strange things that pop up, like wrestling schools that once had some prominence, basically selling things for 77% off or more. especially in California. Is this our wrestling boom right now? It certainly doesn't seem like one. Total Aggression Pro, no longer in the Landmark Arena. Their next show is November 15th. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Let's talk a little bit about 11-11-11. Bam. I called it the greatest wrestling angle in Georgia. I'm sure there's a lot of people from Wildside and Anarchy that will try to dispute that. I'm sure there's a number of other groups that to them had an angle that was humongous. But I'm going to always argue for 11-11-11. It transformed PCW from the best wrestling that nobody was watching to the wrestling that everybody paid attention to, even if they try to pretend that they did not. And so I noticed on the calendar when I looked at the beginning of the year, PCW really started running in earnest in 2010, right? The Sam Stone shows were in 2009. PCW really started running in earnest at the Academy Theater in 2010. I was already looking at the calendar of 2011 because my vision was that we would have Sacred Ground in September-ish of each year. So I knew Sacred Ground was already going to happen. And then Sacred Ground 2, I had already sort of had plotted and schemed. But I wanted to have stuff in the works already for after Sacred Ground 2. I didn't want it to be a dead stop. So in as early as like April, we had sort of put in sprinklings that there was going to be this invading group. And in the May and June of the summer of 2011, we started the Empire attacking. They made their debut attacking me and Shane Mackey, who were the commentators and sort of like old Scrabble wrestling guys. So they got us trapped in the ring. And then they sent a couple people to attack us. One of them being Joey Kidman, by the way. Rest in peace, kiddo. And I knew, the expectation was going to be, and I just wanted to march you through all of the booking that led to 11-11-11. Because it was all about me trying to outthink our very smart, wrestling smart crowd. So I knew the expectation would be, okay, these two guys are going to come in and beat the shit out of the two old guys. But instead, I let me and Mackie have our moment in the sun, catch these young guys slipping as they were coming in the ring, and fucking beat them down. But then we got beat down by Danny Only and Strychnine. I wanted to set up this notion that with this angle, there were no rules. I wasn't acknowledging boundary lines between federations. I was going to bring in surprise people all the time, that it was always going to feel very dangerous and edgy and crazy. So we got beat down. That was the first appearance of the Empire. Now the Empire continued to attack. And we did a number of other notable things. Like one time, Empire chained the doors closed and locked them so nobody, including the audience, could escape when they were going to do another beatdown. And the PCW people slowly kind of got together to try to fight them off. Then there were the factions that wouldn't get involved, concrete guerrillas amongst them. But that was the major angle. And I knew, at Sacred Ground, we did a thing where we put over a number of the Empire notables. Danny Only scoring a singles win over Vordell Walker, for example. But we gave PCW sort of a big win when Mason wins the PCW title at Sacred Ground Chapter 2. So it seems like the Empire isn't that big of a deal. But then right after Sacred Ground, we start turning it up, where the Empire is beating us down and they're growing, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they've got multiple managers, right? You've got Miss Rachel, you got Jonathan Malik, you got Marty Freeman, sort of collectively trying to control these guys as they continue to attack us. And then finally the match is set on 11-11-11, a 10-person team versus 10-person team elimination match, PCW against the Empire. Winner stays, loser goes. Basically, it's either PCW is going to survive or the Empire is going to survive, but not both. And we had done a number of things in anticipation of this match. We introduced this character called Union Jack, mask guy, the British flag, who had wrestled for months, basically squashing people, defeating them handily, and he was sort of the killer for the Empire. So here we are, and I announced it was going to be the last match that I wrestled as Lethal Litigator. Managed to get in shape so I could fit into the old jacket. I couldn't get a hold of my former valet, Miss Stiletto, the most dangerous executive level assistant in wrestling. So I got an actress friend of mine portray Miss Stiletto, and came to the ring with my old crazy Lethal Litigator entrance, and I was one of the 10 participants, and here we go. We had set this off as the blow-off, that we had let the Empire kind of get over and get over and get over and get over, so now it was PCW's time. That was the feeling, right? If you look back on the poster, like, there were other things also happening on the show, but they were of little consequence. There was a couple matches. I remember Dynamite Soul did the sort of great crazy stuff too, leading up to it. The Surrealists did a sketch where one of them, De La Vega, represented the Empire, and he was like Darth Vader, and then Maya did her hair in the fucking Princess Leia buns and shot him with the fucking Nerf gun and dragged him off. And just all kinds of ridiculous PCW comedy stuff. So this was supposed to be sort of a night of celebration, and it's going to culminate with PCW winning handily. Of course, you know, the eliminations went back and forth. And at one point, it looked like the Empire was way ahead on points, which, of course, sets up the comeback finish. And the comeback finish involved me and Rachel finally getting our hands on one another, and her beating me down successfully. I wanted to kind of help put her over. And at the point where she was going to finish me off to pin me and eliminate me, Union Jack is sort of messing with her and grabbed her foot and distracted her, which let me pick her up, give her the platinum plunge, and beat her. So I eliminate Miss Rachel. Everybody's very happy about that. And then Union Jack comes in and then just takes a big nasty plunge back bump in the middle of the ring, and I pin him, and it unmasks to reveal that it's Simon Sermon, that we had planted Simon Sermon as a mole in the Empire for months to set up for this moment, which was got a big reaction from the crowd. They could sense the tide had turned. Obviously, we were going to do well because even though that I kicked the next guy in the dick to get disqualified and get out of there before I got beat up too bad. I mean, we had a couple of guys against Jay Fury and fucking Shane Marks. Those are our killers, right? Couldn't ask for two better guys to represent PCW, except Shane Marks turned on Jay Fury and beat Jay Fury down and bloodied Jay Fury and dumped Jay Fury in the ring. And so Jay Fury was pinned. And that was it. And chaos ensued. And people couldn't believe it. And then my thing with booking is, you've done the incredible thing, now go more. So out comes Jeff G. Bailey, a guy who no one could ever imagine would be in PCW. Now, a lot of the PCW fans didn't know who he was, but this was his chance to cut the quintessential Jeff G. promo. Backstage, Jeff G. and I had never met face-to-face until that night. I was obviously preparing for my match and getting my blade ready so I can cut myself and bleed. By the way, I outbled Jay Fury. I bled very well. Cool, funny little story from that. I could never tell if I was bleeding effectively because my hands shake very badly. So what I use to cut myself open is a fucking X-Acto blade. Like, I don't have like a corner of the thing because I'm always afraid I'm going to fuck it up. So I stick it in, twist it, rip it. So I'm bleeding pretty well. And my valet, Miss Stiletto, Jazz Sams, who's an actress, and you've probably seen her in fucking national commercials for all kinds of shit. And she was fucking legitimately horrified, like, holy fucking shit, this guy's bleeding right in front of me. And then I go, like, do I need to hit it again? And because she's not a wrestling person, any wrestling person would always answer, yeah, hit it again, hit it again. But she was just like, no, don't. And I'm like, no, I think I'm going to do it again. And then so I go to do it again, and she goes, no, stop. And then she pushes my face into her boobs. Hashtag wrestling is awesome. To show me, because on her white shirt, there's my blood all over her shirt. And she goes, don't do it again. So I don't. Then they hang me on the ropes. They hang Jay on the ropes, and we're bleeding. And Jeff G cuts his fucking promo, tearing me apart, saying all the things that other groups I knew were saying about us anyway. And that's the end. And then they said, play the PCW theme because that's the last time you're ever going to hear it. And that led to the Empire having taken over. We would put up posters for shows, but with the PCW like X'd out and the Empire logo on there. And the Empire ran roughshod and declared that on that night on 11/11/11 that Shane Marks was their champion, awarded him a title. And for almost a year, Mason fought to keep the PCW title because the Empire knew we get that title off of him, we've got everything. And I disappeared. I went away. Clean shaven and kind of big. I went away for months and months and months and months. And I would actually sneak into the building. I wouldn't let anybody see that I was there. So I could continue to run the shows, but I certainly never went out in front of the crowd. But Shane Marks defended against babyfaces, and Mason defended the PCW title against members of the Empire who were constantly trying to take the title from him. And that culminated in Sacred Ground 3, Chapter 3, a show so great that it caused Larry to create the Show of the Year category because he wanted to acknowledge how great Sacred Ground 3 was. And I won Booker. It was just like fucking awards all around. That was definitely our year. But 11/11/11, it's always going to mean a lot because it's where everybody came through. And if you look at the people who were on that card, it was just wrestlers from a myriad of different promotions who were there. And that space, which had 44 chairs, there were more than 100 people there. There were so many people standing around that they formed an aisle that was only like one person wide. So you would just have to force your way to get to the ring. It was truly an electric and crazy atmosphere. So unique, so special. It was magic. And the people who were part of it talk about it often. It's always seen as sort of the high water mark for PCW in a lot of ways, along with Sacred Ground 3. And it's taken years to sort of escape that thing's shadow, as it were. But I think it's successfully done it now. PCW Remix now gets a chance to make fucking magic of its own, which is wonderful. Why do I bring this up? You're talking about... I knew what the main event of Sacred Ground 3 was going to be before Sacred Ground 2. I kept those two champions intact, and every wrestler has an idea that culminates with, and then I win the title. And you don't know how many of those fucking dickheads were like, I should beat Mason, but I'll let Mason beat me right back. Or Shane Marks should lose it because I think the crowd is going to be really upset if he never loses this Empire title. Of course, it's how they would see it. But no, we kept the titles on both of those guys. And keep in mind, we're running more shows than anybody. Certainly more shows than anybody fucking runs now. Talking a show every Friday. And Porterdale as well. So that was 2 Saturdays a month. Every Friday. And then shows at the Masquerade once a month. And then whatever art venues I could talk us into, we would also do shows there. A lot of chances to advance story, a lot of chances to make stars, a lot of chances to give guys reps, but also a lot of times that Shane Marks or Mason or both would have to be on a show carrying it. Really great shit. And of course, Jeff G, along with Rachel and fucking Marty and Jonathan Malik, made magic. We did a number of great moments, like the Surrealists, who were these group of sort of like weird performer types. One of the most famous things that they did, they would do impersonations of the heels groups. And when they came out as the 4 managers of the Empire, featuring Johnny Danger as fucking Jeff G. Bailey. And then they had the great moment when confronted where Jeff G. and fucking Johnny Danger like mirrored each other. Like they were so amazed at how good they both looked. De La Vega as Miss Rachel with the fucking tinfoil Empire title and him in the fucking midriff showing shit. PCW does drag better with fucking anybody, by the way. My friend Francis, who was Dr. Melee, our fucking nurse, who was part of their group for one night, wore the fucking crazy Marty Freeman outfit with the cane, and she just kept going, folks, because he would say that in promos all the time, folks. And then everybody was really happy with it and laughing and all that shit, but they're like, well, they don't have a 4th though. They didn't do Jonathan Malik. And then Matt Myers, the erstwhile Carpenter, fucking takes out, who's been sitting in the audience the whole time with his fucking friends, all of a sudden takes off all his shit, and he's got the Jonathan Malik vest, and then he comes and cuts the fucking promo. And we had so much fun. And we did so many great fucking things. And booking was a real fucking joy. And I miss being a wrestling fan. And there was no bigger fan of PCW than I was. And here's my ultimate point. And I'm not even at the commentary yet. Isn't that fucking crazy? Here's my ultimate point. MLW did something really interesting for me, which is I was a fucking fan all night long. And I just had a great experience from the time I got there until I left. And MLW helped make that happen, which is wonderful. But I think PCW was special and unique and what Georgia wrestling needed. And it didn't even know it needed it. Didn't even know it wanted it. And now it's back, and it needs it again. I think there are a number of guys. I think Gary Lamb was absolutely needed and forced everybody to up their promotion game tremendously. I think the awards being emphasized and there being so much coverage is forcing people to get better at promoting, at talking about their own shows, at getting reports in, at being honest. This is a great time. I don't know if you can call it a boom. But what you can say is that expectations are incredibly high for ring work. The boys expect more. When's the last time was there a women's wrestling match where you could argue that it was the best match on the card, like Danny Jordan did? It's a wonderful time, but it's not going to make me less critical. It's going to make me more critical. So buckle up, fucks, because this is what I do. And anybody who doubts the credibility, I always just think it's so fucking funny when people fucking want to call credentials into question. Let me make it clear. Yeah, I used to wrestle and probably had fucking more matches than most of the guys who wrestle now. Yeah, I ran a promotion. And people want to say, it was a failed promotion. Anything but. Because again, that angle, better than anything anybody's fucking doing now. By miles. And if you think I'm wrong, then prove me wrong. Until then, fuck you. I'm Stephen Platinum. And I got to be the captain of the best ship going. With the best angle going. And the best wrestlers going. And the best managers going. And I brought women's wrestling back to you, Georgia. And did it right. And did it better than anybody. We all did. We had the show that everybody knew the name of and still does. I say Sacred Ground, and you know it's a fucking PCW show. Hell, the name Platinum Championship Wrestling is better than any of the fucking names anybody are putting out nowadays. By miles. So, if you're taking this as a slap in the face, what you should take it as is a challenge. Be better. Be better. Because that angle is history, right? And PCW, forever young. Forever beautiful. Commentary time. It's not going to take all that long. Well, I always say that shit, don't I? Logan Creed showed up in that fucking battle royal and fucking rocked it. And it was with an incredible sense of pride. You know how like when AJ Styles made it, all of a sudden everybody put up pictures of fucking AJ Styles, right? I remember working with AJ. They wanted to rub off of AJ. I found myself doing the same thing with Logan Creed. I was fucking very proud. I was sitting there in the front row, pimp style, platinum style, next to other wrestling fans, and I was talking up my boy, fucking Logan, and he came out, looked like a fucking star in a promotion that had stars. He looked like a fucking star, and when he was in the ring finally with Timothy Thatcher, a guy I think the world of, fucking love that guy, and he threw him out, and he sat there celebrating and fucking made sure I got good pictures, didn't he? That's how stars think. Make sure Steve gets the fucking shots. Make sure Steve gets the right pictures so he could put them up, which I was happy to do. Earlier in the evening, the Spider Lady was Priscilla Kelly. You knew it right away. Priscilla Kelly has a quality that you fucking can't hide. You can put a fucking oversized t-shirt on her. Somehow her fucking midriff still shows. And that ass. And all the other great things about Priscilla Kelly. And that hint of orange hair. It looks good on her, by the way. So she showed up. But the crowd knew. Not only knew it was her, they knew her. And I think that alone will make MLW happy. That it feels like they got a coup. That they like got something cool with Priscilla Kelly there. Fucking awesome. Gringo Loco, masked wrestler. I looked at him, I said, he looks really familiar, but I'm not 100% sure. And I had trouble placing the wrestler's name, who I knew that he was. But that wrestler, after they had their match, contacted me. It's fucking Charade, right? Hadn't talked to him in years. I had been highly critical of Charade because he had gone for moves before. He did like the moonsault and a half and all this shit where he fucking landed on his head and got 14 stitches. And I was super critical of it. Other people said I was an asshole for fucking criticizing it, but I was just like, fucking, it's because he was so talented that I was like, that he's trying to do this shit, or he thinks that, like, if I can out-rotate Jack Evans on a fucking move, that I'm gonna get signed. And I was just like, this is the fucking wrong way to go about it. I fucking tore it up in a full disclosure column and all this kind of stuff. But he was nothing but happy. He was like, fuck, it was so good to fucking see you there. And I talked to him afterwards. What it showed me was, not only was I right, which that's not news to myself, certainly, but that people can learn and people can appreciate later, even if they don't appreciate at the moment. And it's not like I thought, oh, he should be thanking me for fucking calling him a dumb fuck for landing on his head and writing him constantly about doing too fucking much and all this shit. Of course I understood why he wouldn't. But it was great in that moment talking to him and seeing him make good and complimenting him on what a good fucking performance he did. And even though they got their match time cut tremendously and his partner really got fucked up in a move, they covered it incredibly well. And he's just being a consummate pro. And he was talking about how excited he was to be with MLW. And I didn't really get to talk to Priscilla. But you could see that she was fucking excited, and certainly Logan was thrilled. And they're doing all these pre-tapes, and they've got him worked in. He's like really worked in. They're actually like booking things in advance, far in advance for him. And I know how powerful and important that is to do. To have a plan and to include people in on your plans and what you're doing. It's a real relationship that MLW has with the boys. And then they got Dr. Tom there. By the way, we're not having Tipping Point tomorrow night because Dr. Tom wasn't able to do it. But Larry and I are going to pre-tape an interview and then have it part of Tipping Point following Tuesday. Dr. Tom certainly rates that. And you could see Dr. Tom's fingerprints all over it. The show made sense. When they would have a big moment, like the Teddy Hart match fucking blew me away. And I thought, I feel sorry for whoever has to follow that. But they followed it with the Selena Del Rey promo. And then a squash match. And then all of a sudden everything felt reset. And then you could get back into the card. I thought that was brilliant. And Dr. Tom, I only got to talk to him. I wanted to talk to him, of course, all night. Because he's Dr. Tom. He's so fucking smart. And it made me realize... And this is really the point of the commentary. Not only can you have redemptive moments, and not only can... Right now, you might be thinking, like, I'm beating you down, or your trainer's beating you down, or veteran wrestlers are fucking not respecting you and all this shit. But you can all come to realizations later. Just don't quit. And just continue to try to get better. And acknowledge the truth once you realize it. Have there been promoters that I've fucking torn apart who fucking hated my guts and said horrible things who in private said to me lately, you know, I realized you're making us better. Yeah. That's my fucking goal, dickheads. But something I realized at MLW, because really seeing Dr. Tom put a finite point on it, and how reverently the wrestlers that I talked about Dr. Tom and his influences on the show. Because I kept bringing it up. I'm like, fuck, having Dr. Tom there's got to be great. And they're like, yeah, man. Like, he makes sure, blah, blah, blah. And the agents who agent our matches make sure what we're doing and why we're doing it. And you could see it. Not that there weren't mistakes in the show. And you'll see that in my report, and I'll call those things out. But there was an adult in the room. That was clear. And looking at AEW, there's no adult in the fucking room. And they need one. Desperately. What we're seeing with AEW is a group that had so many things going for them. And now, ratings-wise, I think that's just symptomatic of the problem, which is they don't have an adult in the room. And are there Georgia promotions that don't have an adult in the room? Yes, including prominent ones that are very successful right now, but they need an adult in the room. And by adult, I mean they need agents who are agenting matches and making sure things make sense in their fucking show. And things are built for the long term and spots aren't being repeated. And you need an adult in the room. So let me ask, promotions, who's your adult in the room? Who are your locker room veterans who are making sure shit makes sense and agenting matches? Is your crew communicating with one another? Really communicating with one another? Who are your people in the locker room who are willing to make sacrifices, who are willing to be the C at the bottom, to hold up 4, to hold up 2, to hold up 1? Who are the adults in the room? Yes, your promoter should be one of those. And they are there to promote things. Yes, your booker should be one. Your booker should be leading from the front. Do they really respect your booker? Or is he just one of the boys? Hard lines have to be drawn. A lot of people didn't like me at PCW. But they damn well respected me. Either it was a genuine feeling of respect or it was born out of fear or whatever. And I had to draw a hard line, and I wasn't really friends with the wrestlers. I just wasn't. Because I knew that's what it would take. I was the adult in the room, and PCW is a reflection of me. But at the same time, I would argue that PCW, especially in that magical time before and after and around 11/11/11, there were a number of people and a number of locker room leaders and guys who took things very seriously. And we would have confrontations, and they would represent themselves or their clique, and they just wanted to be included, and so I included them. But I was the adult in the room, for better or worse. And what I see, even on a national level, is people crave to have an adult in the room. They crave it. Look how desperate WWE fans are for Triple H to take over, that they needed a new adult in the room. That's the feeling. They're so desperate for it that everybody is heralding that Triple H is inevitably going to be some kind of savior for that company. I've seen wrestling fans say the craziest shit, like, I wish Stephanie would take over this. Stephanie McMahon, you want her? That's how desperate they are to have this feeling of an adult in the room that is not Vince McMahon. But do any of the writers, do you ever hear about one of the writers feeling like the adult in the room? Is anybody really excited about Bruce Pritchard being the adult in the room? Sure, he's sort of like workmanlike, but he's a yes man. And what part of being the adult in the room is not, you want your adults in the room working in lockstep. At the same time, you don't just want them jerking each other off. You need someone to tell you no. And you need someone to say, I'm not so sure this is the best way. But when push comes to shove, an army needs to be led. And if you're a shitbird group, you're probably a shitbird group because the leader of your flock of shitbirds is a shitbird themselves. And here's how you know. Here's a sure sign that your adult in the room at your wrestling group isn't all they're cracked up to be. Are they just excited at the notion that you're doing a show? Is that in and of itself a sign of success to them? How many groups do I see that sit there and going like, yeah, well, we pulled that off and they can't take it away, or they constantly tout how long they've been around and how many shows they've done. Merely putting on a shitty show repeatedly is not in and of itself a sign of success. That's how dumb wrestling fans think. You know how I knew TNA wasn't a true success? Because all they could talk about is how many years they had been around. You know how you can tell when there's a veteran in your locker room that you secretly fucking hate because they talk about how long they've been in the business? If you have to tell everybody how great you are, you're not great. A man that says he's king constantly is no king. If you have to talk about how many years you've been doing the shit as proof that you know what you're doing, that means you probably are, it's not evident that you know what you're doing. So that's a clue that you don't know what the fuck you're doing and you're not really the adult in the room that you should be. If they're not really the adult in the room that they should be, they flex the title. I'm the booker. I'm the owner. I've got the title. I'm the champion. More than embody the title. And they're so busy, to paraphrase American president, trying to keep their job that they're not doing their job. And part of being the adult in the room, and this is the hardest lesson, is you should be training somebody to take your place. And you should be training people so when you're not there, it doesn't all fall apart. Now, I've missed exactly one PCW show ever, and even then I came in at the end because I was doing a series of radio fucking interviews to promote the first Sacred Ground. Even then I couldn't stay away. But I constantly looked for somebody to take over. And through a process that we went through over many years, Shane Mackey did a great job in a completely unappreciated by the boys, having to take over that show. And then there was a group of people that did it. And the person that emerged from the group that eventually took over everything was Matt Hankins. But a lot of my job was supporting those people. Instead of me selfishly going like, well, I want them to think that I was the best at doing it ever and blah, 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 blah. I couldn't wait for somebody else to really emerge. And a number of people did that, and I thank them. But I had to learn, too, how to be the adult in the room. And for all of my myriad of faults that I have, I don't think anybody ever questioned that. People on the outside may have said I was unqualified. But I could always break it down. I was an unqualified trainer. That's why you ended up using everybody I ever trained on your fucking show. And now PCW wrestlers are getting Hall of Fame inductions in other promotions. Steve just uses a bunch of actors and it's a bunch of theatrical bullshit. He's not a fucking booker. Let me say this. And this is a fucking painful truth and it's arrogant as fuck. There is not a promotion in Georgia that wouldn't readily or hasn't readily either offered that I could book there or asked for my advice on something they wanted to do. Not a one. Or who wouldn't let me book if I moved back to Atlanta tomorrow and walked in their locker room. Wouldn't let me fucking book their promotion right now. Any of the shitbird ones. I'm the adult in the room. Who are your adults in the room? And for the boys, the men and women who wrestle, think about the promotions that you wrestle for. Who are the adults in the room? And do you respect them? And if the answer is no, what are they going to do about that? Who are the wrestlers that you go to for leadership and advice? Georgia wrestling, there are so many things that are so positive and going incredibly well. But if you don't have fucking adults in the room, if you don't have wrestlers agenting matches who really know what the fuck they're doing, if you don't have an adult that has a vision that goes beyond, we're going to be a success, and I kind of want to put myself in the shows. What's the vision? Who are the adults? And then finally, What are you doing to get better? I'm glad that people want to get the magic. I'm glad that people are feeling it and using the terminology and they're excited. I'm glad that points of comparison are happening. But 2019 showed us a lot, and I think 2020 needs to show us even more. By the end of the year, I'm going to do this. I'm giving everybody to the end of the year. And then in the beginning of January, I'm going to break down every promotion. I may not grade them, but I'm just going to drag it out. Who are the people who are supposed to be in fucking charge? Who's the booker? What do the boys likely think of them? It's a lot to ask, and it's very harsh, but that's what the fuck I do. Who are your adults? Or will you be the adult in the room? Will you be the wrestler who will either endorse the locker room leader or be one yourself? And if you are that locker room leader, who are you building up to take your place when inevitably you're not going to be there? I guarantee you there is not one promotion that has all of these things in place, but they need to. Fucking get on it. Adults in the room, bring up the next one. This has been Full Disclosure.